whatever version of this. Welcome back to the Queen's James channel. I appreciate everybody coming back to part 2 of our MLS stadium rankings, and today we are going to be doing the top 5 stadiums that Adam and I would go watch a game at, essentially. And again, just like last video, before we get into this, feel free to fact check us. Feel free to tell us if any of the stadiums that we like are garbage dumps if you want to. And I will say that just like before, MLS is not a league that, well, I can't speak for him, but MLS is not a league I enjoy watching. I watched when Zlatan was here because he's kind of they're the closest team to Las Vegas where I live. And outside of that, my knowledge went to David Beckham, and before that, I don't really have any knowledge of MLS. I'm definitely a Premier League guy, so I have been to my knowledge of these stadiums are very limited. I've only been to a handful of them, and I have been to one of them in my top 5. But that said, I'll pass it over to you, Adam, if you want to add anything else to that, and we can kick it off with you today.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us as well. I have, if you've seen any of our other videos, I am referred to as the casual because I have recently gotten into the sport of soccer or football, depending on where you're from. But similar to Jeremy, I have unfortunately, or I guess in our case, fortunately, been tainted by European football. So I don't watch much MLS soccer either. But I feel like we do have some somewhat strong opinions on the best that MLS has to offer as far as stadiums go. So if I understand correctly, it looks like I'm going to start us off with our top 5 here. So we'll go in order, obviously, from 5th best to absolute best. So starting off with 5th, I am going to Bank of California Stadium, home of the LAFC. And my reason for putting him in the top 5 is I really like the design of the stadium and the fact that it's essentially kind of centered around having a unique opening in one of their corners, which gives a very picturesque view of downtown Los Angeles, which I think is really cool. They're also a green certified stadium, which I like that as well. They have, I believe, 440 designated parking spaces for bicycles, and I don't think it's complete yet, but they actually have a designated bike path to get to the stadium, which I actually thought that was really cool as well. So again, number 5 for me, Bank of California Stadium, LAFC.
Would have made my top 10, but not my top 5. So good pick. We've been actually somewhat similar on a lot of our picks. So my number 5, I am going to a stadium that has something that a lot of, well, I should say that pretty much every MLS stadium does not have, and that is history. The stadium that I'm going to with it, from my understanding, is probably by far the oldest in-use stadium in MLS. In fact, it was built in the 20s. I'm going to Portland, Oregon, where the Portland Timbers play, and I believe the Portland Thorns play there as well. But this stadium holds about 25K, and on average has an average attendance of almost 24K. So I don't think anybody would argue if you're ranking these based on atmosphere. I would say pretty much everybody would have these in your top 2, at least top 3. Arguably your top atmosphere pick, pretty much on a lot of people's list. I would say on the majority of people's list. So that said, yeah, I've got it number 5. It's a refurbished stadium. I get that aspect to it, but again, it has history, which is something I feel like need in MLS. Now, granted, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I'm sure the comfort factor is not there. Is to say a stadium, that's brand new, like if you've seen Nashville's new stadium, it looks gorgeous, but it's not opening, I think, until next year. But that said, it's a gorgeous stadium full of history. I've been here before. It's the only stadium on the top 5 that I've been to. So number 5 on my list, I've got Portland.
Very cool. So we'll move right on to number 4. Number 4 for me is Rio Tinto Stadium, which is home to Real Salt Lake. So my biggest reason for this one is what the Colorado Rapids did absolutely wrong with their stadium, and the fact that with Real Salt Lake, if you're, I don't remember which sideline it is, but if you're on one of the sides of the stadium, you have just this absolutely amazing view um, of I'm gonna butcher this, but the Wasatch Mountains in the background, which is it's just absolutely amazing in my opinion. I mean, I've never been there. I would actually probably like to go to a game there just to get a picture of that. I mean, that's how amazing it looks to me, anyways. And the stadium itself is a nice stadium as well. But that's my biggest reason for it being in the top five is just the fact that they could not have placed. I don't think they could have placed the stadium any better than what they did.
Copy and paste everything you just said because it's now on number 4 as well. The only thing I'll add to this is I have been by the stadium. I have not been in it, but I've been by it. And I'll also say the Real Monarch Stadium looks very pretty as well, scenically, just kind of like this. Yeah, it's a nice looking stadium. It looks like it's pretty. It looks like it'd be nice on the inside too. It doesn't look like there'd be anything wrong with it on the inside either. So yeah, my number 4 as well.
Awesome. So my number 3 pick is actually one that Jeremy and I clearly highly disagree on because it was in his bottom 5. But my number 3 is Drive Pink Stadium, which is a temporary stadium for Inter Miami. Um, I One of the reasons that actually put this in the top 5 for me, well, at number 3 for me, is the color design, because not only is the color design in the seats of the stadium, but it's throughout the entire facility, and I absolutely love that. Obviously, the whole theme. I mean, it's part of their kits. It's part of the stadium. Like I love how they've done that. And obviously, the whole basis behind everything is for a good cause related to cancer. So I love that too. I actually think it's a pretty nice facility. I mean, the overall design, you could probably throw into that cookie cutter design, but I don't know, between the color combination throughout the entire facility, and it does have that brand new look to it, I feel, and the fact that it's for a good cause, I had to put it in my top 3.
Yeah, I love the colors as well. I mean, the only other team I could think of off the top of my head that even has colors similar to that is Palermo in Italy. They're in Serie C right now. But moving on to my number 3, I have a stadium that I think probably most people wouldn't have in their top 5. But I've got BMO Field, and I'm going to be reading from this a little bit. BMO Field, which is home to Toronto FC, and I absolutely hate Toronto FC, by the way. But the stadium holds nearly 30K, which is pretty significant for an MLS stadium. I don't know what the average, you know, capacity is for an MLS stadium, but it seems like it's in the lower 20s, I would imagine. But they only have an average attendance this year of about 10K, which, if you've seen their team play, you understand why. And it is one of the unique stadiums that has hybrid grass. I'm not sure how many have that, but not very many. If not this being I don't know how many. It was built in 2007, and what I do love, two things I love about the stadium is it's kind of unique looking, and I love that you can see Toronto depending on which side you're setting on in the backdrop. So that's a really pretty view, I think. And to me, it just looks, when I look at, for example, our previous pick, Real Salt Lake. I just have a relaxed vibe about that stadium when you walk into it. It just seems like a stadium where you could just really sit back and enjoy the game. This reminds me of a stadium that you could do that in. It may not necessarily be the prettiest to look at visually, but I just think I would enjoy watching a game here.
Yeah, I certainly can't argue with you because that BMO Field was the one that was right outside my top 5. So I agree with you there. Absolutely.
That's surprising because I thought I was taking a limb there and, and going out of my way for that one.
No, no, not at all. I'm right there with you. So we will move on to number 2 in our top 5. So number 2 is Providence Park, which is home to the Portland Timbers. I absolutely love this stadium. I honestly spent a lot of time between this and my number 1 pick and where I wanted to go, because I love the fact that this is like the historic stadium in the MLS. It's one of the few that actually gives me the impression of like a real, like, true stadium, because I love. I think it's on the east sideline, you've got it's like a 4-tier design, which it
Yeah.
just even though it's kind of like a horseshoe design, like, I don't know, I like the fact that it's all like different depending on like what section you're in. That 4-tier design, like it makes it seem so much bigger than what it really is as far as capacity goes. And I feel like that might actually be kind of a little bit intimidating to opposing players. I mean, I've not been there, but I love it. I know there's like I don't know if it's part of the park or not, but there's one section where there's like a tennis court above a building where you could actually watch the game from there if you wanted to. So I really like it. And for that reason, Providence Park gets number 2 for me.
Yeah, and it's a great walk in the area on game day too. It's just a lovely walk. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I can't say too much. I can't say anything bad about the stadium. And it used to be home to the Portland minor league baseball team, which is somewhat why it has that horseshoe that horseshoe look to it. But yeah, it's a stadium I'm definitely fond of, as I used to live in the area. But so we'll go into my number two, which is a newer stadium built in 2019. Um, it is a grass pitch, which I love, and it was I don't know if I like the inside of the stadium more or the outside of the stadium, but it's Alliance Field in Minnesota. And honestly, from just a pure stadium standpoint, this is my favorite one. Um, the outside of it, we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier. It's almost like a lit up translucent like type of, I don't know what you would call it, but it just looks really good on the outside. And then when you walk in, they've got the team colors on the inside, which is this, I don't know what type of color, what you classify that color as, but it's almost like a dull gray and a dull blue mix, and it just gives me a very relaxed, chill vibe when you walk into the stadium. It makes me literally want to sit there and get season tickets to this team just because I feel like this is just something you can relax and enjoy a game and enjoy the atmosphere. And the attendance numbers this year haven't been insanely great, but again, I don't know how many of these attendance numbers are COVID restricted. I don't know if they can have full stadiums or if they can have full stadiums all year. I don't know how that works. But either way, they're averaging just under 12K and it holds around a little under 20. But this is my number two. But overall, it's my favorite stadium per se.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more because Alliance Field is my number 1 overall. I absolutely love it too. Again, home to Minnesota United. I mean, it's a as Jeremy just pointed out, it's a just under 20,000. I think it's like 19,400 is the seating capacity there. But well, I don't really know where to start with this one because I honestly I love it. I do love it so much because, but where I will start is that when looking at it, at least from an outsider's point of view, not having been there before, it actually looks like a much smaller stadium than 20,000 in my opinion, which I actually think is a good thing because when I was looking into this Alliance Field, it obviously, if anyone out there wants to fact check me on this, but I'm like 99% sure that it actually is the closest to the pitch as far as like distance between the actual field of play and the stands. Like you're right on top of the pitch, and I could not love that more because it reminds me of some of these stadiums over in Europe, which I just like. I think that creates like a really great atmosphere, being just like right on top of the players. So I really like that. I like the design on the inside is in one of the ends, which I think is like the standing room only end, which I think they refer to that as they've got a specific name for it, but Wonderwall I think is what they actually call it. And you've actually got the team crest kind of built into the design there, and then I like the color scheme because it's the team color scheme. And then uh, you've got the outside, which, as Jeremy was explaining, is like it's almost like a translucent material. It's has built-in LED. You can make it any color you want to, which is really awesome. It was actually designed after I think it's called Alliance Stadium, which is home to Bayern Munich in Germany. So it's love it. I plan on actually going to see a game there. I'm not sure when and how I'll make that happen, but I do want to go to a game there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I can't disagree with anything said at all. So my number one is not necessarily stadium related, but it's view related. Now, if we grew up similar-ish areas before we both moved. But one of the things I loved about going to see Cincinnati Reds games back in the day was not necessarily because of the stadium, but it was because of the views you had. You had views of the river, views of the bridges, views of the highways, and that's exactly why I love Subaru Park in Philadelphia. I absolutely love the river nearby. I love the big bridge. I love everything about the views. To me, that is just, as someone who used to watch Tampa Bay Rowdies games all the time, where I could see the bridge and the boats and everything, it was just so pretty to see in the background when you're at halftime or before the game. I think this is a great stadium, and I don't have any facts on this, but I'm sure this is one of the top stadiums for taking selfies with that in the background because I've seen a bunch. But that comes in at number one on my list. Just hit the, I think it was built in 2010. I don't know if you have that information right in front of you, but it was built in 2010, I think. So it just hit its 10-year mark, and it's still holding strong. It still gets good attendance numbers. So I love the lighting. I love the lights. I love everything about the stadium. But in terms of stadium looks, I still have to put Minnesota United first. But what I would like to see just visually is comes in at number one on my list. So that said, that is our top five for stadiums we'd love to go watch an MLS game at. If you've been to any of these stadiums and you agree, let us know. If you've been to any of these stadiums and you really don't agree, let us know. Um, if we didn't hit any of them that you think should have been on there that we're crazy for not putting our top five, please let us know because we're, like I said, our knowledge of MLS stadiums aren't exactly on par with what they are with other leagues. But that said, we still enjoyed making this video. So I hope everybody out there is having a great day or night whenever this video gets posted. And I hope everybody's having a safe week. And that said, thanks for stopping by again. And everybody have a great week.
Bye, everybody.